Good morning, good afternoon, and everything in between. Welcome back to another episode of Hangin' With The Chads. I'm Chad Springer, joined as always by the greatest tag team partner ever, Chad Boudreaux. Boudreaux, how the hell are you doing this morning?
Man, I am excited. Last night was fun. Go Tigers. Hey, man, real Death Valley stood up last night. But no, today's going to be fun, man. I've been looking for this one all week.
Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, I said we was going to have a big name coming on the show, and it's happened. This individual is a multi-sport athlete. He played professional in baseball, played professional in basketball, over 500 career games in the NBA. He is a Nebraska high school Hall of Famer. He is a Nebraska Cornhusker legend. As you see, we put the Nebraska red and cream up for you today. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Erick Strickland. Mr. Strickland, welcome to the show. How are you doing this morning?
Doing wonderful, gentlemen. Thank you so much for inviting me to hang in with the Chads. I am greatly appreciative of the opportunity to hang out and spend time with some local Marines, as well as great coaches and leaders, as well as athletic directors that help these young men and these young women to be able to look at the opportunities that are yet before them and the lessons that they would learn from them as well.
Absolutely. We appreciate you being here. And, let's just hop right into it. You come from your high school days at Bellevue all the way to the NBA. Let's start with your story. If you want to share some quick background for our listeners who might not be familiar with you like we are, give us a quick rundown of who exactly Mr. Erick Strickland is.
I'm the son of a military officer, Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Strickland and Elaine Strickland. I was born in Opelika, Alabama, which is War Eagle country. Pretty much Auburn, Opelika are pretty much the same town. And as a young man, I always thought I was gonna be an Auburn Tiger at one point in time. And but at a young age of 6, 7, kind of was getting into a little bit of trouble. And my father took up the reins and raised me. Went up to Great Falls, Montana, where I was at Malmstrom Air Force Base. Then we went to Lompoc Vandenberg Air Force Base. And then we ultimately ended up at Offutt Air Force Base. Hence, that's how I got to Nebraska and started there at Mission Junior High. Ultimately went to Bellevue West, played basketball there at Bellevue West as a freshman. Second all-time in scoring in the state in the Class A. And all-state football 2 years, and then I did not play my senior year. Decided to play baseball my senior year by the unctioning of my coach, Dave Schillinglaw. Dave Schillinglaw basically told me, Strick, I think if you play knowing I wasn't playing football, he's like, I think if you play baseball, I think you'll get drafted. I said, whatever, man. You just say you want me to play baseball, man. Don't throw me the bull, man. Just say you want me to play.
The lies those coaches tell us.
You would think, right? And so ended up playing, man. Hit like 458 or something like that. Had a really good season. Got drafted by the Marlins. Yankees wanted to take me in the first round, but decided they said, we want you to play full-time baseball, but no basketball. And the Marlins said, well, we'll take you in the middle rounds. You can do both. We'll pay for your school and give you a bonus as well. Great idea. I like that. And so I did that for about 2 years, 2.5 roughly. But it was right after I left high school, went straight to extended spring. That was my first year. Second year, I got to short season, Class A up in the New York Penn League. And then they wanted to move me to Double A. And but that movement didn't happen because they gave me an option and said, hey, if you decide you want to go try basketball, we'll offer you an opportunity to come back if it doesn't work out. And so that's how that worked. And then ended up just going straight, focusing at Nebraska, becoming a free agent. Great draft class. If you know my draft class, I think you can understand. I do understand why I probably wasn't drafted either. I mean, you're looking at Steve Nash, Ray Allen, Allen Iverson, Marcus Camby, Antoine Walker, Tony Delk. Who else was in there? Stephon Marbury. you can just keep
I
going
like
on
Steph
down.
Marbury.
Yeah, man, it's a great
Nice.
draft class, and so just ended up being a free agent, worked my tail off, and made the Mavericks, and had a 9-year career there.
Absolutely. And you spoke on a lot of things that we're going to hit today, but I'm going to go ahead and break the bubble open. You spent 9 years, or you spent quite a bit of time in the league, over 500 games. You got to go against, you just mentioned guys like Allen Iverson, Steve Nash. You played against Jordan, you played against Kobe, you played against LeBron. Tell me, and I've always wanted to ask this question. We see it on all the TV shows about the LeBron versus Kobe versus Jordan thing. But what was that presence like being on the court, standing against someone like Michael Jordan? How was that from a defender point, but also from someone who obviously probably looked up and respected the game and what he brought to the game? How was that like?
Well, as a young man, I definitely always admired MJ. I admired MJ from his competitiveness, from his drive, his passion, his love for the game, and his approach of expanding his game from becoming just a super athletic guy to becoming a mid-ranger to having range with the ability to do it, but his counters, his post game, he just totally elevated continuously in his game. And I definitely admired that. I won't say that I looked up to him and mirrored his game or looked at him as a person that I would like to, fine tune my game behind. That person for me was Gary Payton, because that was a guy for me that I really kind of looked at. Another guy would be like Mookie Blaylock, who I got to see in the region a lot at Oklahoma and on. Those guys were really, because I knew that defensively that would be a thing with my physicality and the things that I'm able to do in that space. But the first time because I actually was a starter for a period down with the Mavericks, pretty much throughout my tenure, and a lot of people don't even know that like Steve Nash was my backup. Like that's the crazy part. People don't really hear that. So they really had to move me out the way to let Steve, emerge, which was, and they could have talked to me and just said, "Strick, we want to let Steve." I'd have been like, "Cool, I'll come off the bench." I didn't care. But the city probably would have had a problem with it. But at that time, the city really liked me, but that's kind of how it happened. We had a shoot around, and officially it wasn't going to be me. But then Don Nelson, approached me one before the game. Change, Strick, we're gonna actually put you on Michael to start. So initially you're like, dang. And all through pregame, you're going through the layup line and you're looking across because you've always seen, the pregame workouts and they've got the cameras on them. And you're like, dang, that's MJ. But then you shake hands, tip about to go up. I don't want to, curse on the show, but I'm going to tell you kind of how I felt. I'm like, man, bump MJ, let's go. You know what I'm saying? So you go from admiration to like, man, bump MJ, let's go.
I would like to think that's probably the only way we can do that with MJ.
And real talk, because don't do this to him. You better do it internally. Do it internally. Don't do it vocally to where it can be heard. But because of that, though, because of that competitive edge in me, it was a beautiful thing. MJ used to have a nice little golf event where he would do, back then, we used to do this stuff. They don't do it now, but they had, all these little summer basketball games. And, like Zoe had one, Summer Groove down in Miami, Magic would have one in LA. They had these different basketball games, and MJ had one, and it happened to be in Texas, and I got invited to it. And when they were looking at the teams, this is that respect thing. When you're looking at the teams, he's looking at the teams and he sees me on the other team. He says, no, switch that around, put Strick on my team. That was a thing for me where I was like, man, that's dope. There's respect there. So yeah, it's love.
That's awesome. Boudreaux, follow up on that one.
Yeah. So how we've heard some things about how intense those summer games can be, and like some of the best ball is actually played in some of those summer games. What was that like playing and going into that event and just like being on MJ's team? But then I know it's not going to be anybody that may be down in like the G Leagues playing. This is going to be top tier talent going at it. So what's it like?
Yeah, it's good because you have to be at your peak. Like the All-Star games and all that stuff now, it's like I don't even like watching it. But like back in those days, like if you stepped on the floor, like you really wanted to get after each other. It wasn't no, just let everybody do. Now you understood that you didn't want to do anything to hurt nobody. You didn't want to go when somebody's about to go dunk and try to speed down and take a charge or swipe and do undercuts, and you were mindful of that because you wanted to protect your hand. So there was some wisdom in it when you played those type of games in the off season, and so we really wanted to be careful about the type of people we played with in the off season. That was an important thing as well because of the fact that you didn't want to put yourself in a position to get injured because people just off the street, they see you come in the gym and they're like, oh yeah, and then they end up doing something stupid and it can mess you up for a summer. So, but those type of events used to be so much fun because they were really competitive. And we would go down to the summer, we'd go down to Houston. There's different places that we would go and play in the off season. And one of my good partners that we used to do that with was Cedric Sabalas. We would travel around the country together and just work out and stay in shape and push each other and hold each other accountable.
Yeah, that's amazing right there. I can only imagine how those games went. It had to be some good damn basketball.
Oh yeah,
definitely. So when you was with the Mavericks, you was there when Mark Cuban first bought the team. Being there and seeing that happen, that whole transition, and Mark is a very outspoken individual. He's very passionate about sports. How was that transition from a player's perspective? And did y'all know that Mark was going to eventually lead y'all to be more successful than what you was when he first took over? How was that from a player's perspective, seeing a ownership change like that?
Well, if you're biblically inclined, right, you know that the oil, as is spoken in the Old Testament, it says the oil falls from the head to the breastplate, and all the way down to the feet, right? That's what leadership really is about. That's what you guys really do. You really want to create extended arms of yourself. And when you see someone with that kind of love, with someone with that kind of, it's the same thing with coaches. One of the hardest things for coaches to do is you want to get everybody to buy in. And there's ways that you go about it. You got to be tactful. You got to identify who the leaders are. You got to get them initially to buy in, because if you have any type of schism within the leaders of the team, ultimately it's going to feed off into those who are underclassmen and they're watching and they're like, they're going to test boundaries. So you want to get all that stuff in check. And so that's what Mark really did. He came in first from the top, from the business standpoint, set things in check, made sure he set expectations and what's to be expected for the leadership. And then that was all applied to us. And so you could see it from the beginning. You could see it from the way that the types of food that we ate in the locker room, pre-game, post-game, on the road, types of hotels we stayed in, the plane, and what we ate on the plane. Just, you can definitely see it. And you started to see the change and the turn because the team felt it. They actually felt that they were appreciated. And we wanted to give that back. And that's when you started to know that there was going to be a shift and there was going to be a change.
Nice. Awesome. Boudreaux?
Yeah. So, when you're going on the road and stuff like that, and let's say Cuban's at the game, sitting there courtside, what's it like watching him just like pull off some of the antics that we see all the time on TV, on the things that he's doing? Is the appreciation still there? Or are you like, hey man, like let us do our job?
No, so some people feel that way, right? But for us, it's not. It was never that. There was always appreciation. To be honest, we rarely noticed what Q was doing, right? But where we knew that the love was real and authentic is owners can't do this now to the tune that they did back then. But things Q would do is certain of us, not all of us, but Q had a G5 Gulfstream, and he would there would be times where we would be in certain places, and really I understood the dynamic. It was really trying to connect with us in a way outside of the business realm. So there would be, like, say, if we were in Vancouver or we were in Phoenix or LA, there were certain cities, Miami, Atlanta, maybe Charlotte, definitely New York. So there were certain places where Q would say, hey, the plane's going home. He'd be like, me, Michael Finley, sometimes AC Green, depending on where we were at. Sometimes Dirk, sometimes Steve, Cedric. He would say, stay. The plane's going to leave tomorrow in the morning at 9. So be at, whatever $1 million air or whatever by 9 tomorrow. And so we would stay. We would hang out with Q. We would go eat. We might party. We might hang. And then we would meet and fly back the next day. That's the kind of owner he really was. He really wanted to know his players and his team. And, those who had impact in whether it be in the community or on the team, so that he can identify as to how to work with them in building the best of franchises.
Awesome. That was I've always respected Mark Cuban. He was not everybody's cup of tea, as I would like to say, but I've always thought he was a really good owner, and he helped the Mavericks franchise then become what it is today. What was it like having a coach like Coach Nelson, who, obviously a Hall of Famer in his own right and all that? How was it coming into the league, having a coach like that, and then believing in you as a starter early on in your career? How was it having that bug in your ear?
Yeah, for me, ultimately, it was Don was a great coach. He was a great basketball mind. I used to call him the mad scientist. Like Don Nelson, a lot of what's going on today, he was just so much ahead of his time, because he was thinking along. There wouldn't be Draymond Greens if it wasn't for Don Nelson type. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the type of stuff he would do with me. I was his Draymond Green, right? So, for example, like, we had a mismatch problem when we played the champions, which was the Spurs around that time. We had a mismatch problem because they had David Robinson, Tim Duncan, Sean Elliott was their 3, Mario Elie was their 2, and then the little general, Avery Johnson was their point guard. Yep. And then you had guys that came off the bench, so forth and so on. They were a very good deep team, Malik Rose and those types. They were a very deep team. But we had mismatch problems because we had Sean Bradley, AC Green, other guys, a host of guys, Gary Trent, but Dirk was a young Dirk at the time.
Young Dirk.
So we tried. Don was just finally figured out, like, you know what? We don't want to match up to them. We want them to match up to us. So what he did was he put me on Tim Duncan. He put either AC or Dirk on David Robinson. He put Seth Sabalas on Sean Elliott, Michael Finley on either Sean Elliott or Mario Elie. They could interchange. And then he would put Steve Nash on the little general so he can hide it. Steve defensively wasn't the best. Let's be honest. But Avery wasn't a great shooter. So Steve is very good at helping and digging and, all of that. So, and can shoot. So that was our matchup. So for me, I could be physical with Tim, because Tim's goal was face up, non-guarding big men, jab them, and then he'd shoot it off the backboard, and there's really nothing they can do. Oh, but if you're quicker, I'm gonna back you down, post you up, drive you, spin, and get to my stuff. So he had a counter for each type of guy that was guarding him. So for me, my job was to keep him off the block. So he had to be at that at the slash line, just beyond where he's not going to be able to take advantage of his height on me, and his face up and dribble. That's in my lane, so I'm good there. So I just pressed him up. And we ended up beating them. And that was the type of stuff Don would do. He would do things like that. There was one time where we were playing the Lakers, and our goal with the Lakers was take it away from Shaq, and let Kobe get frustrated, or let Kobe go nuts and Shaq get frustrated. That was our only way to beat them. Like we had to make them frustrated against each other, right? Like you shoot
the whole
too much, you're not giving me right. So there was one game where Shaq was just doing whatever he wanted to Sean Bradley. He would just get the ball, boom. He would turn, boom. He was just going buck wild. And so I'm sitting on the bench and I'm getting mad. I'm like, put me in on him, Nelly. And I'm just talking smack. I'm just, I'm thinking I'm just whooping. Nelly looks down on the bench. She's like, go in, get him, Strick. I was like, all right. So I go in and of course, Shaq is looking back like, here, but I'm down real low and I'm leveraging real hard and he's leaning and I'm like, God, this mug is big. And but what I knew of Shaq is he's going to be mad at the fact that I'm trying to leverage him up. So I'm gonna leverage hard, release, and let him, dip into me and get a charge. And so I did that a couple times, and he got to go to the bench. So that was my little 5 minutes of fame on Shaq.
Hey, doing your job the right way.
Right.
But get them in foul trouble. Boudreaux.
Like, always, who was your favorite person to ever go up against out of everyone that you played against in the NBA?
Wow, that's a tough one, but I really enjoyed the banter that Allen Iverson and I had with each other, because Allen's 160 and 170 wet, right? But he's super. He like his heart, and that's what I loved about him. His heart, his competitive edge was through the roof.
Yep.
But every time we'd play him, I'd have to go to the referees. And I'd go to the referees and Allen would come over. We would always have these back and forth, which was real fun. And I'd be like, listen, Allen's 160, 170 wet. At that time, I'm 220, 225, right? And I'm like, listen, he's going to bump into me and I'm not going to move. But that's not a foul. Like, Allen would come over. No, you be fouling, Strick. You always be hitting and hacking, and we would go back and forth. And the refs would just be laughing. And so those were some of the fun times because, we would definitely get after each other competing, and it was always fun to compete against him.
Yeah, definitely shout out Allen Iverson. He probably is the most fearless competitor that I have seen on a basketball court in my young time, and I've always been a huge fan of Allen Iverson too. I tell the kids, y'all want to see the dog? Y'all pull up the old AI videos. He didn't care who it was. He didn't care if Shaq was underneath the hoop. He's going.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is Hanging with the Chad. We're here with our very special guest today, Mr. Erick Strickland, Nebraska Cornhusker legend. He's a Nebraska High School Hall of Famer. He appeared in over 500 games in the National Basketball Association, and we're fortunate enough to have him on our show today. We're gonna move on now to college. I know we kind of started in the pro league. Now we're going to college. Being a Cornhusker, being from the area, how much pride do you take in your Cornhuskers? I 93 7 the ticket. You're still working with them. How much pride do you have in your Cornhuskers still? Is it just bleed that scarlet every single day?
Yeah. You're Husker. I just bleed it, man. It's again growing up in the state, just watching it, and then to be a part of it and a part of its history and a part of the history that not only won its very first conference championship, or tournament championship, and then also winning his very first ever national championship. To be a part of those teams were phenomenal. The guys that I was able to play against were great. Play with were great. Some of the talent I got to see in the Big Eight, and it's just that thing, man. It really is. It's a thing that just you bleed, man. No matter what we're going through in the best of times, when I was down in Dallas at the time, there was some respect, and then even through the worst of it, when people were talking crazy about how garbage we were and all of that, I'd have to say, man, that wasn't the fact. That wasn't the case when we were there, type of stuff. So yeah, you go through that, but yeah, man, Nebraska sports is definitely king here, and it's fun to watch. Hopefully, in the football realm, Coach Rule will get them going. We're able to pull off a big win against Cincy just this last weekend. And Fred did something out of the ordinary. Got him into the tournament once again. Came up short, but I think he feels he's got a good team this year in order to do that. The ladies have done well on their side. Volleyball is definitely
killing it.
It's phenomenal. So yeah, we get to see some of the best of it here. While here, I'm actually going to be moving again shortly. So I will no longer be with the ticket at the time, but that's okay. There's other things. I do have another show that one of my he's a 2-time national champion with the team, Cluster Johnson. We have WTF that we're gonna be full-time launching on multiple platforms. So I'm still gonna be involved with it. Gonna be doing it, and it's not. I know you probably were like WTF, like what the
I stalked your social media. And
yeah. So we talk facts. So no, everybody listening is not what you think.
yeah. It's a catchy name for the show, though. Very catchy name. And shout out, you mentioned the girls volleyball team. I think they started the trend of girls volleyball actually using football stadiums to play their games, and they packed that stadium. Like it was crazy. They packed it, and So being from the area and seeing it grow to what it is now, how much in your eyes, I obviously got to get into this, the most dreaded thing with NIL. How much do you see from being a college athlete, professional athlete, to now, years later, seeing how much the NIL realm and all of that has changed the game? And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's some parts of you that want to be salty about it, right? Because
absolutely, I can understand that.
Then you see the legislation and you're like, wait, you guys didn't go back far enough. Like, y'all, you get some years coming back here now. But I know if NIL was around when at the time when I would have killed the game. Multi-sport.
Yep.
A lot of different sport. Pretty versed in being able to communicate and speak, and so I felt that I would have hit a major lick, but
done pretty well.
But like there was, what I did was kind of like NIL in a sense, because Danny Nee, my coach in basketball, was able to secure a free scholarship because you have, like you said, you stated some of my accolades. You had a Hall of Fame player on your team that had an NBA career that you didn't even have to waste a scholarship on. Like, a lot of people don't know that. Like, I was not on scholarship. I was actually, because the Marlins paid for my school. So, that's something that you have to think about. So I actually had money, and listen, I think there was something that was needed. I think it went a little bit overboard, gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Wild Wild West needed to be reined in, but it's tough when you push the toothpaste out to try to put the toothpaste back in. And I think it went a little bit overboard. I think they're trying to find ways to mitigate that. I like what they're doing now as far as putting them and kind of creating a form of a salary cap, because it makes you make better decisions. There needed to be something to be done about everybody just leapfrogging. I was at this little spot last night. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember a game called Frogger. And
Yep.
that's what it seemed like all these kids are doing every year. It's like they playing Frogger and just jumping all over the place.
Going to the best deal they can get.
Man, it's wild. But and the part that I think it was that kind of gave me a little pause was all of this upfront money. Like, I can understand if you get to campus and you perform and your numbers dictate where you sit, but you're a 5-star and you think you come in with all these million, you haven't done nothing, my guy. Like, and it's kind of similar to what Michael Jordan said about some of the salaries now. He's like, we had to work for it. Like, a lot of us were deserving of what we got because we had to put in the work. Some of these cats are just, because they're young, they're talented, they have a little run for 4 years and they just throw a max deal at them. It's wild.
Yeah.
But that's what I saw with the NIL space, and I'm like, whew, the way that they throwing it around, man, it's crazy.
Yeah, I've always said I love for the kids to get paid, but there needs to be some type of limit, because if they want to talk about the equality in sports and athletics, you need to put a limit on it to where X school can only spend X dollars, same amount as every other school. But I'm all for the kids getting paid, all for it. I don't like the every year seeing the same kid in the transfer portal and all that. Like, that's crazy. I mean, if you would have transferred from Nebraska to go, anywhere, you would have had to sit out a year, And what would that have done to you for a whole year? All you get to do is practice. You don't even get to really do anything. So these kids can just hop out in spring and know they're going to be on a team, first day of fall camp.
And Springer, in conference, it's 2 years.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
That. Yeah, that's crazy. And then sometimes, I've read stories say Strickland was going to leave Nebraska. The coach would go, "You're not going to any Big 8 school." You're not going. He could put restrictions on where you're going, and he wouldn't approve you to opt out. So, yeah, that's crazy. And these kids need to realize it's like we got a high school transfer portal. Like, that's the crazy thing about it. Like, you see it on Twitter all the time, especially down here in Central Florida, because down here we have what they call school of choice. A kid can go wherever they want, realistically. Right. As long as they get a ride to that school, they can go wherever they want. Now, there's some limitations here and there, but it's crazy.
Whereas you used to have to live in the district, or you had to live in
I'm not saying there's not a spot somewhere that just has a random mailbox, but I'm just saying it's crazy. This transfer, like 8U football kids are transferring to another 8U football program with 1 year of eligibility. I swear I've seen that on Twitter. It is crazy.
Boudreaux and Springer, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to turn this around to you since you guys are in that space. Absolutely. So you guys both give me your perspective on what we're seeing now with these travel programs, these national programs like your IMGs and the likes of them, where they're building these, like Allen down in Texas, where they have these big schools. They don't want to split the schools. They just have all this, everybody going to one school, and they become these powerhouses. Like, what's your thoughts on those? Is it okay? Do you think there should be any restrictions, or these national powerhouse teams where they actually can pay people to come and go to school?
Boudreaux, you want me to start, or you want it?
I'll start it.
Okay.
No. So it's taken away from the kids being kids. I said it with 8U when they do with the travel clubs now. When they're bringing these big schools, I mean, we got IMG, Mount Verde, the two big ones down over here, and it's taking away the hometown feel of playing for your high school. Like, when you went to Nebraska, you're from Nebraska, you understood that you were representing Nebraska. Where these kids now, I mean, you got kids playing at IMG and Mount Verde that aren't even from the state of Florida. They just moved down here to play during their season, and they're gone again. Mm-hmm. So to me, it takes away. So when you go to play for like a Nebraska, or you go to play for one of these colleges, and the colleges represents more than just that college, it represents your entire state or your area. You don't know how to react to that. You don't understand what that means. And I think it's crazy what they're doing to these kids nowadays. especially we were just talking about the transfer portal, shopping kids around to find what's the best program for them to be in. Like, let them struggle. Let them understand what it's like to struggle and represent that area and build something that when you go back home, they can be like, you did this in our town where you're from. This is your home. And instead of going, I'm from North Carolina, but I'm coming to play at IMG in Florida. Like, to me, I think it's dumb.
This is what I think. So I'm a football coach by trade. I love football. I like the small towns that shut down for a Friday night because there's nothing better than that. I don't think it's, again, I'm all for the kids being able to play, and I agree with Boudreaux. When it comes to like the IMGs, at least IMG offers many different levels that they actually have a national team that goes and just plays national games. They have a state team, but they're really good. Now, it costs a lot of money to go there. Same thing with the Montverts. I think the kids should not be all wild, wild west like they are in college and in high school. At some point, the states need to step in more. I've been to Eagle Stadium in Texas. This is a $65 million high school football stadium. McKinley, their rival, built a $75 million football stadium just to say they spent more money than the other school did. Now, Texas does it differently than Florida. They pay their coaches better. I'm all for coaches getting paid more.
Yeah.
That's just me. At the end of the day, they do things differently. Like, so for instance, Texas, a lot of places in Texas, they do that 4-day on, 3-day off thing. So you save all that energy on Fridays by not having a power bill and not driving buses. You save all that money. Now, will that work in every state? Not really. I think that the state of Florida doing their school of choice thing has hampered high school athletics to the point where if Erick Strickland is playing basketball over here with me and I'm the coach and you get mad at me, you can leave and go play for Boudreaux's school tomorrow. And there's literally nothing we can really do about it. And be gone. And there's so many little loopholes that people find in it. And so there's not a lot of consistency because if someone's not looking for it, they're not looking for it. I think they're, again, charter schools, private schools, great. You have a really good thing going on, but you're taking away from the public side of it, which is why a lot of schools have, 1,800 students one year and then 1,200 the next. What people fail to realize in a normal world, you lost 600 students, which means you lose that much money per student, which means you got to lose teaching positions and you got to lose X, Y, Z. So the Wild Wild West opening up that way has a lot of issues. Like our neighboring county, the county I live in, not the one I work in, they had some 700 faculty members they had to cut last year.
Wow.
Because students are not going there. It's crazy. So, I mean, I'm all for the kids wanting to participate, but I'm from a small town in North Carolina, and you went to elementary school together, you went to middle school together, you went to high school together. Yeah. You played the same YFL, you played the same travel ball for baseball, the same AAU for basketball. AAU basketball and travel baseball, the only thing I don't like about that is they do their own thing. They do their own rules. So a kid will play AAU basketball and then think it's the same rules in AAU basketball applies to interscholastic athletics. It doesn't. Yeah. So I wish there would be more of a unified look to that, to where, hey, these same rules apply. If you cuss a referee out in AAU, all they're going to do is hey, you're done for the game. You cuss a referee out here in the state of Florida, that's 6 games minimum. So they think they can do the same thing. There needs to be more unified look on that is what I would say. But I mean, kids, school of choice, I mean, they can go wherever they want, do what they want. I don't agree with it at all. Because again, I'm used to being with the same group all the way up for my 12 years of school. That's where you build the bonds at. I mean, I still have friends in high school I talk to, just like I still have friends from the Marine Corps that I talk to. And I'm sure you still have friends that you spoke with in high school and all that coming up through your life, because it's that bond is a lot different than being able to jump around and do whatever. That would be how I'm going to answer that question.
Great. And because what you just said is so important, because of your military background, you understand the concept of what it's like to be in the trenches with someone. That when you look to your right or when you look to your left, undoubtedly they're in it with you. They got your back. They're ride or die. They ain't going to turn and run. And in sports, a lot of people don't understand that concept too, because you got to know that if I move, you move just like that.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? In the same way, there's a cohesion there that's only built in the trenches together over time.
Yep.
It's not an overnight thing. It's not. This is why some of these teams, they may have great transfer portal rankings, but they don't always necessarily bind together. And so that's built over time, where that glue begins to merge and connect itself to where without a shadow of a doubt, oh, he's making that cut. Drop that dime.
Like look how many, being a professional athlete like yourself, like look how many professional athletes don't stay with the team that originally drafted them. Steph Curry's probably the longest reigning player on anybody's team right now from the team that drafted him.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's injuries and things like that come along that derails things like that. But like baseball, I love baseball. I tell everybody that was my first love. I just became a really damn good football coach. How many baseball players truly stay with the team? Now they're throwing buku money out. Like they're throwing super, like Shohei Ohtani's contract and Juan Soto's contract. I mean, I love Mike Trout. He's loyal to the Angels. He could have left so many times. Yeah. Derek Jeter, he went on record and said he wasn't going to leave New York. But, would he have left New York if someone offered him more money? So at the end of the day, loyalty, the guy in the trenches, that relationship is exactly what, needs to change in the whole athletic mindset. The guys and girls, they just need to know when you're building it, you're building together. So when you do, just when the Warriors started that dynasty with Steph and Clay and Draymond, I mean, they came up together. Yes, Clay left. It is what it is. But for that 10-year run, they was in it together. And that's how they got their cohesion down. I mean, even Jordan and Pippen, even if Jordan didn't retire in 92, I mean, him and Pippen was coming up together. They built a dynasty there, and they didn't have to leave. They stayed together from we'll say the late 80s all the way to the 2000 era almost, so you don't see,
and it's okay to add pieces to that, but if your core stays together. The same.
Yep. It is perfectly fine with that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Hanging With The Chads, and we got our very special guest today, Mr. Erick Strickland, former National Basketball Association member, over 500 games played. He's a Nebraska High School Hall of Famer, Nebraska legend for the Cornhuskers, and we're grateful that he's on today. We're going to segue into baseball. You played 2 years with the Marlins. You was drafted by them. How was that being a younger person? What made you decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to sign with the Marlins. I'm going to try this out. Was it just you wanted to test your abilities and see? You already knew you could do it, but did you want to see how far you could go? Or is it just one of the things you just, hey, just to see where it rides?
So what I'll say is basketball probably was my worst sport. I was probably not as good, and there's something there's something to that. But football was my best sport. I was best at football. And so my 5th year, Tom Osborne had been asking me, Strick, when you come, Tom Osborne is the most cool, calm, and collective guy on earth, man. And he would just walk by you in the hall and be like, Strick, when you coming? And so I went out there my 5th year. That's another story in itself. That's a funny story, by the way. But so baseball was I was probably next best at. And then what I found is that basketball encapsulated all of those together for me. So the cerebral aspect of baseball which was intriguing to me. I'm a very cerebral dude. Like I watch, I pick up. That's really probably why I got into the league. I'm able to pick up stuff real quick, concepts, terminology, all that stuff. It's one of those things that just resonates real quickly with me. And so while I'm out there, I'm playing. I did very well. Showed up and had a very good showing with them, and it was so great of me. But I'm a Sagittarian, and I'm just an explorer. Like I like to go see things in new places, and I travel not for what people will travel to different countries for. I travel because I want to see the history. I want to explore. And that's what I felt that baseball experience was going to be to me. Although, you hear about the professionals, you hear about the minors, and you know that there's a contrast. What is that contrast? But for me, every situation is an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to glean or grow from, right? So for me, it was the grind of the minor league system that was going to ultimately propel me and prepare me for the grind of what I was going to experience in the basketball realm. So sleeping, getting dumped into a place in the minor leagues and just saying in 3 days, you either got to find a place or you got to, as a young man, not fully experiencing college yet, living with a group of guys, how to do that in preparation for what was to come, earning team concepts. In baseball, is so unique because there's rules, there's etiquette. It's like golf in a way, right? There's things that you don't do. So like I remember I was being up to bat, and I'm glad I had good roommates that actually played and they were in college, and they were able to teach me because I was very raw in the etiquette form. So I'd be up to bat, and I was a line drive, gap, doubles, triples type of guy. If I hit a home run, it was going to go out fast. So I wasn't hitting bombs like Ken Griffey or nothing like that. I was just, I'd hit them and they would fly out real quick. And for me, it was one time I was hitting, just for an example, and like in basketball, if you dunk real hard or you do something, you make noise. So I took that with me in baseball, and I'm up to bat and the pitcher pitch, and I'm like, I knew I hit this one. Like I knew I got on it. So I was like, ah! And you don't ever show them up, not in the minors, because the next people might get thrown at. Like, those are part of the etiquette. You don't show up. You don't show up, people, because you might get thrown behind your back. So I get into the dugout, and shout out to Eddie Christian, my boy, man. He's like, room dog, you can't be doing that, man. You gotta just, you gotta hit the ball and just go. Don't be making noises and stuff like that. Get stuff thrown at our head. So those were the things that I was grateful to learn and to apply. But baseball, it was more of an exploratory thing that I wanted to just to see. And the fact that they were starting to move me up, I was pretty impressed with my tenure there. And basketball just worked out, or I would have come back, and it didn't, with no need to.
Awesome. Boudreaux?
Yeah, so like we always hear stories about the minors and how things are like just like at the bottom of where you go to like get to the majors, you get to the show, and it's like first class, and then down here it's not even like business class.
Right.
Below that. So what's that like traveling on the buses and just the hardship that you go through in the minors?
Bro, 12-hour bus rides. Some of the fields that you play in, they got gopher holes in. Like when you get to them, you really appreciate when you get to probably even AAA. You really appreciate it because, balls are very consistent. If you're in the infield, you don't have those lips where a ball can hit and dart off on you. Like it really tests a lot of areas of your game. And but the practices, especially rookie ball, you're in the middle of the you guys are from in Florida, so you know what I'm talking about. We were in Space Coast. Well, my first year we were in Osceola we were linked up with the Astros, and then we were in Space Coast over in Melbourne, Cocoa Beach area. Mm-hmm. Man, you wake up and you talking about 7, and every day we used to eat at this restaurant. And Shoney's. Man, they would take us to Shoney's every morning, and you would eat the same breakfast stuff. You would go to the gym, to the field, and you would do some type of work, whether it be batting practice, working with the hitting coach, base running, field work. There's always something that's going on in the middle of the hot day, right? No. The morning wasn't as bad. it was still hot, but it wasn't as bad. We would shower, take off our stuff, shower. They would feed us bologna sandwiches, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, or soup every freaking day for lunch. So you felt like you was dang near in prison. So then we would get ready for the game. We would have batting practice, and then we would play the game, and it would literally be at 12 noon in rookie ball. In the summer, in the heat of Florida weather. And you talk about, woo, that's the grind. Then, we played all up and down Florida. Obviously all of the spring training facilities is where we played. But then up in the north, we would have to go, as far as St. Catharines, we'd have to go into Canada. We would have to go down into Pennsylvania. And you're talking 12-hour sometimes bus rides with just a group of people all bunched up in there in buses or in a van. Yeah, rough.
Safe to say that the travels helped you, and that hard work etiquette helped you whenever you made it to the league. So another question here. We're gonna get back into the league side of things and your post-league career. Let our listeners know what Mr. Strickland's up to right now. And I know you said we're in the middle of a move, but 93.7, the ticket and all that. What are you up to nowadays?
Yeah. So I definitely was with them, but with 93.7 the ticket for almost going on 4 years. I invested in a company, and you guys may, want to take note of this because it's a phenomenal company ran by Ryan Gerardo, and actually Mark Cuban is invested in the company as well. But I was one of the early founding members of this company. It's called Cerebro Sports, cerebrosports.com, similar to what your guy on X-Men put Cerebro. Yeah. Professor X. So, but it's a recruiting analytics tool. Basketball is kind of the focus right now, both on the men's and the women's side. But what we wanted to do is basically create grade, and the parents or the families that are listening, if your son plays basketball, you might want to talk to their AAU coaches or whatever to make sure they're in there, because a lot of collegiate coaches on all forms using it, and also NBA guys, because they use it for draft modeling. So we basically just help coaches to have a report card for the times when they need to speak to parents, because when parents are there watching their sons, they think they're the greatest thing on earth. They can't do no wrong. They ain't made no turnovers. They've done nothing. But now a coach can all take this same that our platform and show it to the parents as like a way for them to mitigate some of that frustration and say, hey, it's up to you to help him to get to the level. Here's his competition. Here's who the best of the best are out there. Here's where he sits. Where's the problem? This is why he's not starting, or this is why he's not playing. So, help me help him. You're able to have those type of better discussions. And so I've invested in that, man. And then I do a little bit of real estate stuff, man. Just doing retired stuff, play some golf. I'm going up to John Stark's event next week and play some golf with them for his foundation and stuff like that, man. So I'm a pretty chill dude. Like I said, WTF is one of the things that we do as well. And I'm kind of a conduit of speaking engagements, stuff like that. It's real low key, man. But for the most part, I just invested in a few things and watch them work.
Boudreaux, another question?
Yeah, so you're talking about your mentoring and things. What do you have to say to kids nowadays with the way college goes and trying to get, like you said, like everybody thinks they're going to get to league? What's your advice to those athletes?
Well, I try to tell them like my dad told me. My dad always told me, because at that time I wasn't getting the best of grades. I was always a smart kid because I was an academic all Big 8 kid. I was a Dean's List kid. I was smart enough, but I would just do enough to get by. And I would advise kids don't do that. And look at the game and the sport as a life lesson. There's so many things you can learn from them. One, you can learn how to work together in groups with people. You can learn discipline. You can learn how to take constructive criticism if you want to elevate, because if you cut yourself off, you don't understand that the best gift you can have is a multitude of counsel. What do you have to say? What did he say about it? What do you think? And then take all of the information and then apply it to make yourself better in whatever area that you're trying to make yourself better. I also, I tell kids, don't focus too early. A lot of kids are just applying one sport so early that they end up getting burnt out. Not only burnt out, you end up burning out muscles, tendons, things earlier than you would if you would have just did a cycle of everything. So for me, I never had any major injuries. And you're aware of all the sports I played now.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had any major injuries, no torn knee. I did have a torn meniscus, partially torn meniscus, but no, I tore my Achilles after I retired, but no ACLs, none of that, no major injuries that I ever had. And I attribute that to playing a rounded sports, playing all the sports in some form or fashion, because you're using different muscles. You're still being active. So for me, the football gave me the physical aspect of my game. Also the cerebral part, being able to see formations, being able to understand what route trees are available to them in these formations. Just those are the games I would play as a receiver. What moves I can make, how can I make him believe this and that? And so those are the things I use for football. And then when I played basketball, I was able to apply some of the physicality to it, some of the cerebral parts to it, but then some of the baseball to it, for where you fail and you're still doing good if you fail 3 out of the 10 times. Mm-hmm. But it teaches you to have to wash that away. I can't continue to, rest on the fact that, I struck out this time. Oh, yeah, I grounded out that time. Oh, I flew out that time. You got to wash that out. There's another at bat that's due. And those are the things that I use for all of them. But there's different uses of ligaments, different uses of sport, different explosiveness that is used. And so I never really wore out any particular muscles in my body. And that, I think, enabled me to be able to sustain myself. So I would say play all the sports. Do other things like wrestle. I wrestled too. I did a lot of that. Flexibility, conditioning. All of those things, man, I used all of those to help me to be a better version of me in the weakest of the sports that I play.
Absolutely. Hey, kids, y'all heard it first. Former professional basketball player, former professional baseball player, could have played football in Nebraska. Tom Osborne was beating down the door too. So y'all heard it. Well-rounded, play different sports. Don't specialize. I try to tell my kids that all the time. But today's society, Hey, again, ladies and gentlemen, this is Hanging with the Chad, and we're with Erick Strickland. We appreciate you being here. And Boudreaux, final question for the day.
Yeah, so after everything you've done, is there one thing that you can look back on and be like, and put your hat on that and be like, yep, that's me, that did that?
I would definitely say being a starter on an NBA team and where everybody wrote you off. No one believed, to include my coach Danny Nee in college. He was trying to send me to Europe. So I would say being able to endure when everybody told me no. When everybody said he's not this, he's not a point guard, he's not big enough, he's not, all the things that they said, and being able to yet still not only make it, but then to be a starter at that level. And and play it at a high level the way that I did. That's the one thing I can look back and I can say, yo, man, Strick, you did that.
Hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about. That's the story of perseverance, everybody. Hey, again, Mr. Strickland, we appreciate you being on the show today, taking time out of your busy day. And, the floor is yours. Any final words for all of our listeners out there?
No, listen, those of you who are under the purview, under the leadership and the tutelage of the Chads, man, really take into account what they're trying to bring to you, what they're trying to offer to you and share with you. Because even though you may not get it now, there's something that you probably can take from what they're saying and what they're sharing, even from this message today, that you can apply and just plan it so that down the road you may be able to use it when it's necessary for you. So really take into account what they're bringing to you and use it wisely and be accountable for the things and the choices and the places and the people that you surround yourself with. And understand that there's a bigger step, a better step, a bigger place to go than just where you are in your present.
Absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you being on with us today, Mr. Strickland. We appreciate your support. And Mr. Boudreaux, we're going to end the show how we always end it. And how is that?
Be better.
Hey, be better. If you're 1% better today, you'll be better tomorrow and every day after that. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate Erick Strickland being here. Thank you for taking time out of your day. Thank you for hanging with the Chads. Until next time, thank you.